one, the soothsayer, Will Flemming, the voice of the Boston Red Sox. Last time he was here, he promised big things, and
Nailed it.
we all know Rafael Devers was shipped out of town.
Is that big enough for you?
Now that's about as big as you could go. I mean, I guess Cora firing might be on that level, but Rafael Devers' trade was about as big as you could go, and big things happening. And now, because I was worried about you, remember?
This show worries about me a lot. I don't get that. I'm just into the team.
You're
I
emotional.
want them to play well.
You and they sometimes don't. Actually, too often for the liking
But it's your
of most of
emotional
us.
output, Will. Like we can tell just by an inning into the game how much you care. You make Castig sound like he was completely indifferent to the history of the Red Sox, and we as fans absolutely love that about your call.
Wow. Oh, jeez. It's great to be with you guys. I'm out of here.
We get that a lot.
I think that it took me a little while to get to that place doing play-by-play for this team, and I really have sort of listened to our fans for what they want. And I do think that our fan base wants people who are invested in the team. I mean, I do all these games on ESPN and Fox, and I'm definitely not that way in those games where you got to play it right down the middle. That ain't what this is.
Right.
You know, this fan base is dying for a winner. And plus, I think a huge part of that is that I know all these people so well, right? And it's impossible to not sort of be invested in the whole thing. It's good for everybody. It's good for you, Andy. It's good for you, Fitzy. If this team is playing better and more people are listening and more people are engaged, that's a huge positive. So, I guess I shouldn't apologize for that.
No, you shouldn't.
I'm invested in this whole thing.
And I'm a big believer, you got to be who you are. You don't try to be Joe Castiglione.
Nope.
Don't try to be Dave O'Brien.
Nope.
Don't try to be Bob Sosi. Don't try to be Jack Edwards. Whoever Will Flemming, the baseball announcer, the baseball fan, the baseball lover is who I want to hear. Because I think if you fake it,
No, sure.
it won't work.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that completely. And I think it takes a while to sort of discover your own voice, right? And then you find yourself in a sweet spot where you just are who you are. And that probably comes across a little bit heated at times in both directions because, and that's the other part of this. Like, again, our fans, if we stink and base running plays are not being made and balls are being kicked all over the infield, you cannot sugarcoat this stuff, so it's much more fun when they hit and when they score.
And it's more fun when they sweep a team. And I don't care that it's a team that isn't great and fired their manager and general manager after you swept them. I'm choosing to give them credit because I watched them play other teams this year, the White Sox, the Angels, teams that on paper you're supposed to be better than or at least as good as, and all of a sudden we're lamenting losing streaks and falling in the standings. But do they need to sweep the Rockies, another bad baseball team? Because everybody right now is talking about the trade deadline, the All-Star break. Where are you? Buyer, seller, how invested? We got Sam Kennedy on the Greg Hill show saying, oh, yeah, ownership has signed off on being as aggressive as we were in the offseason. They're building expectations of now the team is playing winning baseball, what you're going to do about it, but do they need to continue to win to keep that rolling?
I don't think they need to sweep, right? You get yourself in a tough spot when you say you just the vagaries of this game are so different, right? I mean, they need to win the series for sure. And it's funny, I was just with Alex Cora and I asked him that exact thing, and I said, as a manager of a young team that's rolling along like this, do you just sort of step back and let it happen? He said, not at all. I'm in that room right now saying we've got to keep going, keep pushing this thing forward. I will tell you, this is the show where I make predictions, but absolutely there is every intention to make huge moves coming up in the next month or so. I really believe that. I've been right about this before, and I'm right about it again. Now, the market will dictate a lot of this stuff.
Right.
But what can you give to get certain things? After the Devers trade, it's not like they traded him because they didn't want to pay the money. That's ridiculous. They traded him because they felt like culturally they needed to make a statement for this group.
Yes.
And so the money's gone, and guess what? They're sitting on it, and they want to spend it. Now, it might happen in the offseason because you just don't know. The deadline can be so expensive.
I should have stopped you right there. Hard stop, Sam Kennedy style. I don't want to wait till the offseason.
No, and by the way, they don't either. Okay. They don't want to either. But it's just a question of, and I just think you guys should start to think about the world that Craig Breslow, how he views building a baseball team. Mm-hmm. Look at the people that he makes huge bids on. Juan Soto, Garrett Crochet, younger players with a lot of runway left. I think you just look at the young people in the game who might be expendable or tradable for teams that are losing, and I think they're going to be aggressive on all of those people.
Fitzy, is it me, or did he just say Mason Miller?
I swear, it's like he gets paid every time. Like Mason Miller's agent is Venmoing Andy every single day. Will, it's
I just heard young players that could be tradable, that have strong futures, that may or may not be 100-mile-an-hour closers or future aces.
We
that
got
sounded like Mason
we got a
Miller
pretty
to
good
me.
closer on this team right now, buddy. I don't know if you noticed, but he's an all-star, no less.
Yeah, that's why
I wouldn't think closers high on their list right now. I really wouldn't. I mean, especially if you're going to be in this thing, you're going to keep your guy who's an all-star. But that's the right idea. It's just that the one thing about the game right now is that these GMs, there is a little groupthink going on where they all view it the same way. And one thing is I talk to a lot of them that becomes pretty clear is we've had a little shift where it used to be you wanted to invest in, draft the young position player. I think now general managers across the game value young, controllable starting pitchers more than position players. In other words, to go get, let's just pull a name out of a hat, Joe Ryan for the Minnesota Twins, who I think would be phenomenal here. And I think there's a lot of interest, and that would be the one to me where if you could pull that off, position player, prospect package to go get him, then all of a sudden you got 5-6 years of Crochet followed by Joe Ryan. Like it's one name.
Right.
And it might be really expensive, but that's the kind of guy still sort of in that arbitration period. If you could pull that off, something like that, I think that to me is the Breslow vision for the future for this team.
Cost-controlled stability. That's a really interesting thing that you kind of bring up. But as much as I'm very excited to hear all of this, and Andy is too, because he was just touting they're going to spend the money. They're going to add it.
They are going to spend.
You guys listening? Because you gave me more crap than you're giving him. You pushed back on me.
They're going to spend. They are. I mean, like they're going to try to do it as hard as they can in the next 3 weeks. And then if it doesn't happen now, it's going to happen in the offseason. I'm telling you, with 100% certainty, they want to get right back in the higher echelon. With all these young players getting involved, they're going to spend.
Do you foresee any roster casualties coming along with that, specifically a player like a Jarren Duran being involved?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of smoke there,
yeah.
You know. I think the more you hear rumors around the game, like these national writers who start putting stuff out there, whether it's a Bob Nightingale or a Jeff Passan or whomever, that stuff is not created out of thin air. They are too heavy in the outfield. They are. And the emergence of Roman Anthony, who for me is about as fun a young player to watch as I've seen in a long time. I mean, Devers was different, right? Because it was power immediately and just a different sort of swashbuckling guy. Roman Anthony looks the part of like a 7-time All-Star foundational player. And that sounds stupid after he's played for, 4.5 weeks?
No, but he has face of the franchise kind of feel to him.
Nothing bothers him.
Yeah.
And I think they because he's now here and checking that box, someone in the outfield, I do think there's a real chance someone like that goes.
Interesting.
Yeah, he looks like he just has that veteran poise. You know, the kids always like to say he's built for this. It's a little bit of like a little Bryce Harper and a little Freddie Lynn to throw a contemporary and a throwback comp at, Roman Anthony. Not to put pressure on him.
No
as well,
pressure.
but,
None at all, right?
no, not yeah. Just be two of the best.
Fred Lynn.
Yeah, no big deal. Just two of the best left-hitting outfielders of the last 50 years. But you mentioned Rafael Devers, Will, and obviously, I've begged our show to try to go a week straight without mentioning his name, or even just 3 days in a row. It's just been such a hot button, easy to grab topic.
Start the counter again.
Damn it. All right. Well, it got mentioned earlier. But I wonder, just since you're so close to the ball club, watching, following, talking to the guys, how close do you think they are? Or maybe they're even there. Are they close to emotionally being post Rafael Devers as a team?
Not close. They're way there. And I think that is, think about the courage, the chutzpah that it took for Craig Breslow to do what he did, right? I mean, that is a full-on balls-on-the-table move.
Yep.
To trade that guy, it is, I mean, and he knew this in the moment. You're putting your job on the line, 100%. When you take it to ownership, you say, this is what I believe. This guy does not subscribe to the vision of this team. And what's crazy is, we were in San Francisco right after that trade happened, and everyone out there, of course, because they've been dying to get big hitters, and they think he's going to win them divisions and hit a bunch. He's going to hit home runs. Of course he is. They don't yet know what is going to happen with the player. I was there the second day. Will Clark was there to work on ground balls with him at first base, and Rafi didn't show up. So that's the person that these guys have been dealing with for a long time. And again, baseball clubhouses are different. His teammates did not mind him. A lot of them really liked him, right? I mean, if you hit and you help us win, we're good with everything you do. Right. That does not mean that it's not the right decision as you're trying to build a culture to say, we just lost our first baseman and our third baseman, and this guy who we pay $35 million does not want to do this thing, and the owner's flying in and frankly begging him to do it. They had to move on. And so, Fitzy, to answer your question, this group has moved on. I think there was a little shell shock, but look, they won the series in Seattle. Things got weird in San Francisco, bullpen issues, whatever. I don't think that had anything to do with residual emotional effects of losing Rafael Devers. And all you need to know is his best friend on the team was Cedar Rafaela by far, and Cedar has had his best 3 weeks since the trade was made. So baseball players they're a weird breed, and they just have to go get theirs, and they're in this thing every day for all of these days in a row. I really believe they've totally moved on, and that's where this front office, I think they see an opportunity to bolt on more bodies and really help.
Will Flemming, the voice of the Boston Red Sox here in WEEI, and our crystal ball reader, I guess we'll say, and he is predicting big things for the trade deadline, or at least attempts toward.
So you are too, huh?
Big time. And what I want to ask you, because I just threw some things out there. I was like, let's just Matt Olson, Mason Miller, throw a couple names out there that you could pursue. But if you look at what they're getting back, which is Bregman, Yoshida, maybe Christian Campbell, sort of the opportunities they have within this team, and the corner they've turned in a lot of ways with starting pitching. Brian Bayo has been good for more than a month now. It's almost like you're starting to just say, okay, gives you quality starts. Giolito has been better. Walker Buehler, baby steps toward bottomed out at some point. But if you were just sort of looking at the puzzle as you put it all together with additions to the roster internally and then what you're going to pursue, how would you sort of power rank what you'd be pursuing? Is it a first baseman? Is it just a right-handed bat? Is it unloading an outfielder to get a pitcher? How do you prioritize it?
I think starting pitcher is number one. Now, they already have Kyle Harrison, and they are so high on him. They are. Now, throw out the AAA results. I mean, this is, in a lot of ways, this will define the Craig Breslow era. He hit on Crochet because he just said, you know what? And by the way, they were in on Blake Snell for the exact same reason. Swing and miss, elite fastball stuff. And that's what this guy, Kyle Harrison, has. Mm-hmm. They want that. That's why I use the name like Joe Ryan. There are a lot of people in the game like that. I would think that that's the thing they are willing to right now allocate the most resources to, because they're just more thin there. Richard Fitz pitches tonight. Hunter Dobbins had a good rehab. Tanner Houck is coming back. I think they're realistic about the idea that if you have Crochet and then right behind him another legit 1A starter, then you can really roll for 5, 6, 7 years. Now, pitchers get hurt. That's impossible to predict. But I think they feel really good about where the offense is and can be with these young guys coming here, Bregman returning. So I think starter one. And I also think the last few days you've seen that guys like Weissert and Wilson and even Bernardino, they're overworked. So maybe a bullpen arm would not be the worst idea. Now, at the deadline, those are so expensive. That's where the notion of trying to play it two ways and trading Chapman for two foundational players and then giving the closer's job to somebody else, it gets interesting. The better they play, I don't think they do that, but I would say starting pitcher and then probably another right-handed bat, probably somebody who plays on the infield.
Okay. Maybe not specifically. See, I don't want him to replace Romy your homie. That's the one issue is that.
I've gotten so stupid with that. Like in the offseason, I was with John Sterling, who did it with Austin Romine.
Oh, yeah.
And I asked his blessing. He's like, oh, Will, of course. Go ahead. He's just such a fun player. And he's doing it all the time, and that's part of the reason this offense is so good. But sorry to interrupt.
No. That's okay. When you and Sean McDonough had the booth, it was a wonderful weekend of listening, as it always is.
Is he really your homie?
Roll me, and then he just kind of pauses, like you can hear him loading up the joke. Will's homie.
Yes.
I was dying laughing. But a question on guys who are here after we've had a few of those who we're trying to acquire. It seems as though the offense is going through Trevor Story once again, or at least partially through him. A guy who fans were calling for his head 6 weeks ago, if anything else. How important is a Story resurgence to the overall vision of what the Red Sox were trying to construct this season?
It's been incredible to watch, and no one was wrong for wondering whether he would ever do it again. I mean, this was for, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, like about as bad a hitter as you had in the sport. We've had him on now 4 times in the last 10 games because he just does it every night. He's homering. He's driving in 4 or 5 runs. I cannot tell you, again, as someone who's just around these guys, how fun it is to watch him find himself again. And he uses the word that it feels familiar to him, which I think is so interesting. This is a guy who came up as one of the freak athletes, young stars in the game, and he was just hurt and couldn't do it. He has just been essential to everything the offense is doing. And by the way, I think that's part of turning the page on Devers. And Trevor knows this. The team knows it. You have to produce to be a leader and to be a clubhouse core piece. So it's a lot easier to have his example set the way for Cedon and all these young kids when you're delivering every day. He has, and he's always been a streaky player.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. He's now on the 5-6 week run where he's like the best hitter in the American League, and I think there's no reason to think he can't carry it forward.
Talking to the clairvoyant of Kenmore Square, Will Flemming here on WEEI Afternoons.
That might catch on. I'd wear that T-shirt.
Well, it was better than the loudmouth of Lansdowne, so.
I don't know. I
And
kind of
called
like
that too.
That one.
I'll just keep rolling them out as we chat, Will. So there were 3 All-Stars on the Red Sox, obviously. Crochet, who might be, I don't know if he's pitching to contact or speculating maybe might be getting a little tired, and we're wondering maybe if it wouldn't be a bad idea to skip his next start if it were possible. But the Bregman, obviously, and Chapman, 3 guys that Breslow brought in this season, none of your homegrowns or recently acquired guys. What do you think about that, and do you think there was anyone that was possibly overlooked on the Sox?
I mean, you could make an outside case for Carlos Narvaez, maybe. But, I mean, the other catchers that are in for the American League are totally worthy. You know, it's funny, Fitzy, I was thinking that same thing, and I thought it yesterday when Crochet started. I would like to skip his next start, but they're not going to do that. It's a game against Tampa Bay. I think I asked that to Craig the other day. Like, is that in the cards to maybe just say we need to take a break? And I think they probably will. Not against a division rival that's right there in the division, above you right now. I don't know that he's wearing down as much as, like, if you think about his first, whatever it is, 17, 18 starts, how often it was his job to stop a losing streak or stem the tide or just be a reliable starting pitcher. I think it's only human nature to let off the gas a little bit, especially when, you take them out, it's 4-0. You take them out, it's 8-0. He's human. He's a competitor. I'm not worried about him at all long term, but I definitely would consider sort of, managing the workload because we all know his history, the injury, and all that stuff.
Before we let you go, something we touched on earlier, Dan Brawl, I believe the number was 73 different lineups Alex Cora has written out this year. And some of it's understandable. I don't believe they've had the same lineup more than 3 games in a row. Is there
Where does Dan get this stuff, by the way? I mean, honestly, like, you have a team of analysts.
He's the best, and he shouldn't. Don't give the secret. That's job security right there.
For the voice of the Red Sox, I may have to, but that's okay.
But does that need to change? And I know there's a lot of balls in the air between guys returning from injury, the minors, whatever moves they make.
Yeah.
Or is that just the reality of the 2025 Boston Red Sox, and that's why Alex Cora makes the big bucks, and that's why he's the manager of this team? Or do you think, you hear in football, continuity on the offensive line. Do they need any continuity, or is this just who they are?
I think they do, Andy. I mean, I think the best teams have star players who are in the core of their order. And I think it's a credit to Alex, to Craig Breslow, to everybody lately who puts the lineup together every night. I mean, think about it. Last year, they were the worst team by far against left-handed pitching, and all of a sudden, every time a lefty's on the mound, they just maul him. And luckily, 2 of them are going to start for the Rockies in this series. A lot of that is Refsnyder and Romy, and now the resurgence of Story and Rafaela. But I'll always tell you, Andy, that I think this is Boston. Right? For a lot of reasons, this group needs to have identifiable stars. They need to have people the fans know, that they know for 4, 5, 6 years they're coming to the ballpark, they can wear the jersey, they're going to be here. And I think there's a real chance that Anthony, Meyer, Rafaela, those guys are that kind of people, and Bregman too. But I would say it's great that they've made it work the way that they have. But long term, I really think you just need to, whether it's a Pete Alonso, a Kyle Schwarber, Kyle Tucker, those names are names to watch in the offseason. I think that this front office realizes that it's good to be versatile and flexible and have pieces that can give you what they call platoon advantages. That's a Dan Ball term.
Yep.
But Alex does that better than everybody. I would like a superstar advantage. And when they traded Devers, they forfeited a bunch of that. And look, for what I've told you guys today, I believe every word of it, that it was time. The culture needed it. The clubhouse needed it. But he's one of the 10 best hitters in the game, right? And you just can't snap your fingers and recreate that. You can't do it. So I think they will very intentionally try to add more people like that. And the good news is you get one back with Bregman very soon.
He is Will Flemming. He'll be on the call for WEEI tonight, voice of the Boston Red Sox. And we're also going to book him, I believe. We don't usually do this on the air in advance.
Here we go.
I think August 1st, so the trade deadline's the 31st.
Perfect.
So August 1st, we'll talk to you about why they got whatever big name starting pitcher, right-handed bat, because you're promising big things and you're always right, right?
Not always, but I mean most. They're going to add. They are. Again, you just don't know what the market will cost. They're going to make big moves.